Today's Amud, welcome everyone. Today's Amud is Daf Daled Amud base, but we're going to finish off Daf Daled Amud Aleph and Mishnah. New Mishnah, Makkos Daled Amud Aleph. It's about 9 lines from the bottom. Mishnah, medium. So today's sugya we're going to be discussing what happens when someone does 2 averas, and someone does 2 averas, but does he get 2 einshim or 1 einish? That's the big question up here. That's what we're going to be discussing today. Does the person get 2 einshim, 1 einish, machlekes? Who says what? Says the Mishnah. So 2 Adam come and they tell their friend that he's chayiv 200 zuz. So, as you know, you try to get someone to pay 200 zuz. The Edim who are huzam, they have to pay the 200 zuz. They get the same punishment that they try to inflict on the victim. So, then Edim come and say that they are Daled Aleph, and then the Edim come and say that they are liars. They're caught lying. Imano Yisem. So, what's it then? Loikim u'mishamim. You give them Malkus, and they got to pay up the 200 zuz. Because a different pasuk tells me that they have to pay, and a different pasuk tells me that they get malchus. Right? So you get both einshim. They got to pay the 200 zuz and they get malchus. Says Rashi. Take a look at the first Rashi. Rashi says malchus mishum leisana. They get malchus for lying. It says in the pasuk leisana brechei chakar. They gave false testimony. But tashlumim mishum kashazamam. They got to pay the 200 zuz. Kashazamam la'asas la'ochiv. They tried to make them pay 200. They pay 200. Who says this? Divrei Rabbi Meir. That's the sheet of Rav Meir. That they get 2 punishments: laikin u'mishalmim. Chacham ma'imrim kol ha'mishalem ein aloika. If you pay, you don't get malchus. So that's the machlekes. Do they get malchus and mammon, or just mammon? Rabbanon say, Chum say, if you pay, no malchus. Says the Mishnah, Edu come and say, this guy, he chayiv malchus abayim. So whatever it is, they come and they testify he ate treif, he did an avera, he's chayiv malchus abayim. So what's it in? And then they're proved liars, like Yishmainim. Then they get 80 lashes. Mishum leisan berechet shakar, or mishum masisim like kashazamam. So again, you've got 2 psukim here. 40 lashes you get for leisan berechet shakar, and 40 lashes you get for kashazamam. Divrei Meir v'chamaimim ein leikin el arbaim. You never get more than 1 set of lashes. Take a look in the last Rashi. So which one are you getting lashes for here? Says Rashi, ein leikin el arbaim mishum kashazamam. You get the 40 lashes because of kashazamam, not because of leisana, for lying. You don't get malchus for the leisana berechet chakra. So take a look in Taisus here quickly. Let's take a quick look. Taisus says, bottom Taisus, like in the Mishalmim, Pirish mikra de mevin le de Makkos tahaynu leisana, einu mevin le tashlumin, ala mikra vasisin le kashazamam. Umishum hachi loika or mishalem. Mashma, says Taisus, what could I deduct from this? The Ileika alachad kra, if there'd only be 1 pasuk, what would be the din? Ein Ileika mishalem. If there's only 1 pasuk, Ein Ileika mishalem, that's the diuk that you could make in Rav Meir. Rav Meir says, why'd you get 2 punishments? Say, because you have 2 psukim. Mashma in Rav Meir, if there's 1 pasuk, what would be the din? You can't give 2 punishments from 1 pasuk. For kasha, Aminu Maseches apayalim, says in Bava Metzia, Chaysim Pipara Ladosh Ba Loika Mishalim. So there's an issue in the Torah called Leisachsum Shar B'dishay. You're not allowed to muzzle your shar when it's plowing the field. It's cruelty to animals, whatever it is. You can't be chaysim the shar. So what happens? I borrow your shar and then I plow the field, but I'm chaysim its peh. What's the din? The one says Loika Mishalim. But there's only 1 pasuk. Leisachsum. How can it be Loika Mishalim? Why should you get 2 punishments, Loika Mishalim, for for one pasuk. So Ahafagav, Delek Ela, Chad Lav, Leisachsam. There's only one lav, Leisachsam. That's Taiskash, is a long answer. I'll just give you the quick answer the Ramban says. The Ramban says, there you get Makkos for Leisigzol, not for Leisachsam. For Leisachsam, you have to pay the guy. What are you paying there? You're paying this guy. Now, when I plow my field with your ox, I owe you also, besides what I'm paying you for the ox, your ox is entitled to eat 300 grams of wheat, whatever it is, or 3 kilos of wheat. So I've got to pay you whatever I stole from you. So the Ramban says the payment here is not because of Leisachsam, the payment is because of Leisigzol. That's why Leikim Shalim. This is a whole different answer. We're not going to get into it. Take a look at the Gemara. Now we're on our Amud Dalad Amud base. So we're going to try and understand now what's going on with Rav Meir. So Bishlam Miller Abanon says the Gemara Kadei Rishosai Ksiv. It says in the pasuk Kadei Rishosai. What does the pasuk say? Vayim binikas Rasha v'pila shefet v'kol lifanav Kadei Rishosai b'mispa. So you punish him for his risha. It doesn't say for his rishosai, the word that's extra tough there, it's mashma one risha. Otherwise it's Kadei Rishai, not Kadei Rishosai. I think that's the diak. Ksiv mishum risha achas at mechayva, vi at mechayva mishum shtei rishuyes. So lefi the chachamim, lefi the rabbanon, the reason why you don't get two punishments is because it's Kadei Rishosai. Give him one punishment for one risha. So what's Rav Meir going to say? Ela Rav Meir, my timer. So why does Rav Meir give the guy two punishments? Amar Ula, so Ula comes to explain Rav Meir. Goma Moitzi Shema. Rav Meir is going to learn out from a case of Moitzi Shema. Moitzi Shema is a case where someone speaks bad, someone gets married, and then he comes, he says to his father-in-law, Lo masasi bitcha b'sulim. Your daughter was not a virgin, so I don't want to have to be married as a woman, I shouldn't have to pay you ksuva, the whole thing's annulled. Right? So, says the Gemara, he learns that from Moitzi Shema. What's it in Moitzi Shema? Moitzi Shema, loike, mishalem. Then it turns out that he lied. The proof comes, the witnesses come that there was basulim there, they bring in the sheets, there's basulim. So what's the din? You give this guy Makkos, and he also has to pay. So there, Moitzi Shema, shkei loike, or mishalem. So Rav Meir is going to learn out from Moitzi Shemra. You can also pay and also get Makkos. Afkol loike u'mishalem. So Gemara says, Rav Meir is going to understand. In any case, you can also do a loike u'mishalem. And Gemara asks, how could that be? Mala Moitzi Shemra shechein knas. How can you learn out our Mishnah from Moitzi Shemra? Moitzi Shemra is a knas. So our Gemara answers, Savalak Rabbi Kiva, Rav Meir, in our Mishnah, holds like the Rabbi Kiva we saw in the previous daf, Dama Eidun Zayim Knasahu, that actually Eidun Zayim is also Knas. And therefore, you can learn out Knas from Knas. Learn them Knas from Knas. So, we saw the Pashas, why is it Knas? Because the reason why you'd assume Eidun Zayim is Knas, because Mominus means you did a damage to someone. Mominus means I was mazik you, and I've got to pay the damages. But Eidun Zayim, you didn't do any damage. Even before the guy has to pay, or maybe only if the guy didn't pay, then you've got to pay. But if the guy actually paid, it could be you don't have to pay. If you kill the guy, harga ein an erogim. So you see the Eidun Zayim is not Momin, you didn't damage the guy. It's a kanas. That's how Rabbi Kiva learns. The question that's bothering the Shainim over here is, so Ula brings a pasuk for Rabbi Meir from Moitzi Shemra. The Moitzi Shemra, hold cup everyone, Moitzi Shemra is one pasuk and like a mishalem. But Rav Meir came and said that there's two psukim. The whole chiddush of Rav Meir is that lo yashem and mevilei makkos, mevilei tashlumin. Rav Meir says the reason why you like a mishalem is because there's two psukim. That was the Mishnah. The Mishnah says, Shalei Hashem mevilei makkos, mevilei tashlumin. That's Rav Meir. You got two psukim. Rashi says, what are two psukim? Kasha zama meleisana. Now you want to tell me, why don't we learn it out from, the Rav Meir is learning this din from Moitzi Shemra. In Moitzi Shemra there's one pasuk. There's one answer by Moitzi Shemra. So why by Moitzi Shemra, how could you learn out, why would you have to come and say you got two psukim? That's the Ritva and the Rabbeinu Peretz's Kasha on this Gemara. Why do you need two psukim l'fi Rav Meir? You learn from Moitzi Shemra even with one pasuk. This whole Mishnah, Lo Hashem, Makkos, Shlomim. Just say there's you Chaim. Just say there's no reason not to be Mechayiv too. You see, Maiti Shema Yechayiv for 2 dinim, Ma'achbatli. Yeah, what were you going to ask?
No.
So according to Ritva, the Ritva says that the whole Mishnah of Shalei Hashem Mevi L'Daktim Mevi Tashlumim, Rav Meir is saying that L'Divrei Chachamim, L'Rabbanan that you hold you can never give 2 einshim from 1 pasuk. Here is 2 psukim. But me Rav Meir, I hold you can even give 2 punishments from 1 pasuk. I can do. You see that from Maiti Shemra. You could even give from 1 pasuk. Okay, now he gives another answer, but I'm not going to get into it. Take a look in the Ritva. Basically, his other I'll touch on the surface, but he says you need both. You need also 2 psukim, and you need. He's going to say if it wouldn't be for the pasuk of if it wouldn't be for the pasuk of Maiti Shemra, if you wouldn't see beferish, you get 2 einshim. So when the Torah would say 2 psukim, I would think Kasha Zomim takes care of everything. Vasisim like Kasha Zomim, I would learn that to mean now you're good. But now that we see by what's it called? But now that we see by Maiti Shemra that you get 2 einshim in certain cases, so now we've got 2 psukim. Let's give the guy 2 einshim. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't make that drush without the story of Maiti Shemra. Okay, let's see the Gemara inside. Ika the Masinila Duhula or Hadatanya. Some say this din of Ula Hadatanya Loisasirimena Biker. It says by Korban Pesach, you can't leave the Korban Pesach till the next day. For Noisimena Biker, what's the din? Makkos of Litin essay Achalois essay. The Torah comes to give you a mitzvah essay after the Loisei of Loisisimena Biker. Leimesh ain't like in Olav that you don't get Malkus. That's Diva Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Kiva Aimer, Rabbi Kiva says, no, Lo Hashem. Lo Min Hashem Uzeh. This is not the real reason. Ela Mishum Davei Lav Shem B'Maisa. When you leave over the Korban Pesach, you didn't do a Maisa. That's a lav. It says Lo Shemen B'Maisa. It's a lav, but you didn't do anything. You didn't actively not eat. You just, it's a passive action. It's a passive thing. Cholav Shem B'Maisa. Ein Loikin Alav. So that is the Shita of Rabbi Kiva Michlal. So we can see from here, Rabbi Yehuda Sava, Lav Shem B'Maisa Leikin Alav. Rabbi is going to hold that a Lav Shem B'Maisa, you do get Malkus for. So it says the Gemara, Minale, how does Rabbi Yehuda know that a Lav Shem B'Maisa Leikin Alav? Omer Ula Gama Maiti Shema. Ula says, you know where Rabbi Yehuda knows this from? Do you get Malkus for even a Lav Shem B'Maisa? So if anyone asks you, who holds a Lav Shem B'Maisa Leikin? Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda says, you do a Lav without a Maisa, you get Malkus. How does he know? He learns it from Maiti Shema. When a guy spoke badly about his wife, when he bashed his wife, did he do a Maisa? No. He just said, he didn't do a Maisa, and he gets Malkus. Amashalim. So, so Gemara asks, how can you learn from Maiti Shema? How can you learn from Maiti Shema that like Umashalim, Malo Maiti Shema should aim by Maisa? Sorry, Malo Maiti Shema, Lav Shem B'Maisa Leikin Olav, Afka Lav Shem B'Maisa Leikin Olav. That's what he wants to learn out from Maiti Shema. So Gemara asks, you can't learn from Maiti Shema. Malo Maiti Shema, Shekain Leikum Mashalim. You can't learn this din. You can't learn from Maiti Shema that you always get Malkus for a Lav Shem B'Maisa, because by Maiti Shema, it's like a Mashalim. There's 2 things going on. You have to pay and you Mashalim. Some Achronim want to learn, why talk about Maiti Shema do you get 2 Einshim? It's a bit strange. Some Achronim make the dig that it says, there's 2 psukim. One says, some lo alilas dvarim, then it says after, some alilas dvarim. So some say that he did 2 averas. First of all, he ruined this girl, but also he was mazik the father. So the moment he has to pay because he's mazik the father mominus. Now the father's going to have to cough up big bucks, right, to get rid of his daughter, to marry her off. He was mazik her. And the malchus you get for lying about her. So that's why he's like a b'shalim. He did 2 averas here. There's some law and there's some alilas varim. There's 2. He did 2 things here.
It's a knas. It's not tashlum.
It's a knas, but they were kindness him because he very good kasha. That That's how they learn. It's a knas, but it's a knas based on what you did to her, what you did to the father. I hear you, Kasha. So, but the Gemara is asking, how can you learn out to Kol HaTorah Kula that you're going to get Makkos for a lav she'ein boy Maisa? By Matzah Shema, it's like a Mishalem. So says the Gemara, El Amarish Lakish, Gomim Eidim Zaymim. So in other words, what's the worst case? I can't learn out to every case from this case of Matzah Shema. That's a very serious avera. There, you see it's different. You see, like Mishalem is a different case. It's a very serious crime was committed here. That's why you get Makkos. You're going to learn out from there. A guy speaks Lashon Hara, you're going to give him Makkos? You can't learn out from that. So Gemara says, El Amarish Lakish Gama Meidu Zaymim. You know where I learn it from? We learn out from Eidu Zaymim. Till now we saw if a guy's made Eidu Sheker, that this guy's Chayiv Golas, and Niglet Tachtov, he says this guy's a Ben Grusha Ben Chalutza, what's it then? He gets Malchus. So we can learn out from Eidu Zaymim. Meidu Zaymim, Lav Sheim B'Maisa, Loikin Olav, Avkol Lav Sheim B'Maisa, Loikin Olav. So we can learn out from Eidu Zaymim that you do a Lav, Sheim B'Maisa, they falsely testified, and they get Malchus. So similarly, any other lav Shem Maisa, you should get Malchus. So this is maybe where Rabbi Yehuda knows his din from. That you get Malchus for lav Shem Maisa. So Gemara answers, no, you can't learn it from that. Ma'aleim Zayim Shekain Ein Tzrichin Asra. You can't learn it from Eidin Zayim. Eidin Zayim is very chomer. Eidin Zayim is very stringent. It's very strict. Why? You don't need Asra, and still you give them the Einish. Even though normally for any Einish you have to tell a guy, listen, before you eat that treif, you should know if you eat it, you're going to get Malchus. Only then can you give Malchus. If you didn't warn the guy, you can never give the Einish. But by Eidin Zayim, you don't need Asra. And actually the Rashi explains, why don't you need Asra for Eidin Zayim? Just give the guy Asra. Why Taka don't you need Asra for Eidin Zayim? Take a look in Rashi.
What, and then Matzah Shema needs Asra?
Yeah, every Averi you need Asra for. Everything except for Eidin Zayim. How do I know that? Take a look in Rashi. Rashi says, third narrow line in Rashi. Sorry, it's about halfway down in the narrow lines. Ein Zayim, ein Tzrichin Asra. Because and it says the reason why you don't need Asra is Nisr B'Ha'imas. When you give the Eidim Asra, he doesn't finish the whole Gemara, but the Gemara says, guys come in to testify. If you gave them Asra before they walked in, it's too early, they're going to forget about it. So what are you going to do? They're in the middle of testifying, you say, by the way, you should know, if you're lying, you're going to get Malchus. You're going to scare them off. No one's going to testify. They're going to think, you don't believe us. Why are you giving us Asra now? I'm in the middle of testifying. I started, now you're giving me Asra? Probably because you don't believe me. The Chayshed, the Eidim are going to think that you don't believe them. That's why you started giving them Asra. So you can never give Eidim Asra. You can't give them Asra. If you give them Asra, they're not going to testify.
What's about before?
Before it's too early. They're going to forget. You gave them Asra before they walked into the Beis Din.
You have to give Asra.
You have to give technically right before the Maisa. Okay. Exactly. You have to give right before the Maisa. So when are you going to give them Asra? It's not Shaykh Asra. So that's what Rashi says. Keep going, Rashi. Every other Einish in Beis Shemata, in Beis Shemata you don't need Asra, but because he knows whether you're Shaykh or Gemezid. But based in down here, in this world, any Avera you do, you got to get Asra. The Achronim want to say, why doesn't Rashi bring the second half of the Gemara there? That's only the half of the Gemara. The Gemara's maskana there is that what? Why don't you give Asra to Eidim Zaymim? Because it says Kasha Zomam. They tried to put this victim to death without Asra. They didn't give the guy Asra. He never even did it. He never even killed the guy. So they tried to kill a guy without Asra, so they get killed without Asra also. That's the maskana of the Gemara. They won't understand why Rashi doesn't bring the maskana of the Gemara. Rashi only brings the first half of the Gemara, the aim, when are you going to give them Asra? But the real reason, the Luchayra, the Gemara says, the maskana is that they tried to kill without Asra. Kasha Zomam is only, you got to do the same thing. I think there's a story with Reb Chaim and Brisk that his father saw him giving his brother a patch. So he said, why you gave him a patch? He saw him giving him 2 patches. He said, why'd you give him a patch? He said, he gave me a patch. Yeah, but you gave him 2. He said, yeah, he gave me a patch. I didn't do anything, so I've got to give him a patch for do nothing. That's what you say over here. You've also got to give a patch for nothing. He tried to do without Asra. He was apparently like 3 years old time. But you see the Lamda, his father, you're going to be a Lamda. So, says the Gemara, how do you mala edim zaymim shekain einon tzrich nasra? You can't learn from edim zaymim to every case of lav shem b'maisa because edim zaymim is very strict. Ein tzrich nasra. So moitzi shem reichiach. Now you can do a moitzi shem reichiach. You're right. You can't learn from edim zaymim. Let's learn from moitzi shema together. V'chazar din loy reizeh kreizeh v'loy reizeh v'loy reizeh kreizeh v'loy reizeh kreizeh. Each one has a different chumrah, and still you get Makkos. So don't tell me it's because of the chumrah that you're giving the Makkos. Each one's got a different chumrah. That's all the shaveh shebehen. What's the tzad shaveh? Lav shem b'maisa v'leikin olav. So let's learn from both together. You can't learn from this, you can't learn from that, but we can learn from both together. That the tzad shaveh behen of ein zaymim and Moitzi Shema is it's a lav shem b'maisa, and you get Makkos. Afkal lav shem b'maisa leikin olav. Anytime you do a lav shem b'maisa, you should get Makkos. That's going to be Rabbi Yehuda Shita. So Gemara answers, no, we can't learn. Malat tzad shaveh shebehen shekain knas. These two dinim of Moitzi Shema and Edim Zaymim both have something similar. They're both a knas. So we can't learn out from a knas to kol kula. That you like in a lav shem b'maisa. So halakasha, that's not a kasha. Rabbi Yehuda leisav like Rabbi Kiva. Rabbi Yehuda doesn't think that Edim Zaymim is a knas. Rabbi Yehuda doesn't hold like Rabbi Kiva that Edim Zaymim is a knas. Rabbi Yehuda holds like Chacham that it's not a knas. Or a new shita, I don't know the shita that says. No, Rabbi Kiva said it's a knas. Edim Zaymim is a knas. Rabbi Yehuda is going to hold Edim Zaymim is mammon. It's mammon. And that's why you can learn out the kol kula from these two dinim to kol kula that lav shem b'maisa loikin olav. Again, we're trying to understand here, a quick recap, we're trying to understand, if you're Rabbi Yehuda, how do I know that lav shem b'maisa, you get Makkos, you speak Lashon Hara, 39 lashes. How do you know that? So we want to learn from two dinim, Edim Zaymim and Moitzi Shema. The Gemara says you can't learn from both together. They're both knas. Says the Gemara, no, Rabbi Yehuda doesn't hold. Edim Zaymim is knas. Edim Zaymim is mammon. Edim Zaymim is mammon. So now you're going to have a tzad shaveh. So like Rabbi Kiva, loisav like Rabbi Kiva. Okay, but before you go further, I just want to, what everyone asks over here. So Edim Zaymim is mammon. I mean, we have a Rabbi Kiva that says it's knas. How can it be mammon? How can Edim Zaymim be mammon? The guy wasn't mechayev him. He didn't damage him. Why should you have to pay? What's the mumminus? Mumminus means you cause damages. The whole idea, we said, there's a few reasons why it looks like it's kanas, that they didn't even make the guy pay anything, you still make him.
And that's if it's mammon. What if it's Makkos? Then it really makes no sense.
So it's
How is
Makkos
Makkos a mammon?
Oh. So Taisa says, from here we see that there's a difference between Makkos, Misa, and Mammon. By Mammon, even if the guy paid, you still make him pay because it's Mammonus. If it's Mammon, and L'chaira, it's a bit of a pella because the Rambam seems to say it's Knas. Taisvus.
You're saying if the guy's chayiv misa and stole from a guy.
If the guy's Chav Misa,
and he stole from the guy, he has to be killed and he has to pay back. That's what you're saying? Because he owes the money.
If it happens at the same time?
Yeah.
No, if it happens at the same time, Kibbutz Ramani works totally differently. Kibbutz Ramani is a ptor.
So he doesn't have to pay back?
You don't have to pay back. Kibbutz Ramani means you don't have to pay back. Okay. It's a whole shaila here. Why don't we learn stuff from Kibbutz Ramani? Maybe we'll get a chance to it's the first and second thesis, maybe we'll have a chance to dig in. So that's going to be the kasha over here. So let's finish the Gemara. So Rabbi Yehuda loisav like Rabbi Kiva. Rabbi Yehuda doesn't hold like Rabbi Kiva, and he says it's mammon. So elamala tzad shavah shein shkein yesh ben tzad chomer. So you can't ask from the fact that it's knas, but guess what? They're still at tzad chomer. They're still very chumradik. Edim Zaymim doesn't need asra, and here it's like a b'shalom. It's still chomer. So how can you learn out the rest of Takal Terukula? Here there's massive chumras. Gemara says tzad chomer loy parich. We don't ask. Rabbi Yehuda doesn't ask from tzad chomer. That's not a kasha. Okay. Let's just take a look in the top Taisus, Bishlama, the last narrow line. So what he asks, what Taisus asks is, we saw in Reb Meir that he learns from Motzei Shemra. We want to learn, the Rabbanan learn from Kedei Rishasai, right? And Chachamim and Reb Meir says, no, Motzei Shemra. So Taisus asks, my parich, what's the Gemara's kasha? V'b'ksuvus mukila haikwa l'leiken l'misa. Rav Meir himself says, from the pasuk of Kedei Rishasai, that you don't give Malkus and Misa. A guy does something is chayv Malkus and Misa. Do you give both Einshim? Says Rav Meir, Kedei Rishasai, you don't give Malkus and Misa. Here we're talking about Mammon and Malkus. There's talking about Malkus and Misa. So he does learn from this pasuk. This is all part of the kasha. This is all part of how the Gemara is trying to understand why Rav Meir doesn't learn from this pasuk. Yeah, that's good for part of the kasha. You have to say that, because otherwise don't ask me why. Now take a look at the next Taisus, skip 2 Taisus into Sava. Taisus says, this is a fascinating Taisus. So we said that that Rav Meir holds like Rabbi Kiva, right? Rav Meir holds like Rabbi Kiva, the Eidim Zayimim is a knas, right? Pirish v'lachi yalef la b'motzei shemra. He learns from Motzei Shemra because it's a knas. So what are Rabbanan going to hold? You muchach to say v'Rabbanan savri m'maynahu. You're back to the same thing. In this stage of the Gemara, if Rabbi Yehuda holds it's knas, so if Rav Meir holds it's knas, so what the Rabbanan hold is mammon. And because it's mammon, I can't learn out from Motzei Shemra, because Motzei Shemra is knas. This is mammon. Einu Zayim is mammon. You can't learn out mammon from knas. Mashma de Reb Meir einu loike mishalem ela gabe knas. So what would it be mashma? According to Reb Meir, the mashma of the Gemara is einu loike mishalem ela gabe knas. Ava gabe mammon lay. The whole dinner of Reb Meir that einu loike mishalem, that's only done in knas. By Gab Mammon, you would be Bleika Mishalim. But someone does the Isav Leisachsaim, Mishalim Dalit Kabin Lepara, Vigim Kabin Lechamar, Umukilak Reb Meir. This Leika Mishalim. So the Gemara there says that that's going about to the Isav Leisachsaim, where you do Leikin and Mishalim. If you muzzled your friend's shah when you go to the field, Leikin Mishalim. The Gemara says that's going for Reb Meir. V'hasa mammon. Why'd you pay there? That's mammon. It's not knas. By leisachsan. So why there do you get leikim mishalim? Surely Rav Meir only said it's in by leikim mishalim by knas. And again, Rav Meir is learning the whole din of leikim mishalim from where? From Motzei Shemra. And Motzei Shemra is knas. Eidu Zayim is knas. Leikim mishalim. Right? That's the din of Rav Meir. Leikim Mishalim by Knas. Im Kain, by Mammon, should you say Leikim Mishalim? No, right? Because you can't learn out from Motzei Shemra, from Mammon.
Unless you say Motzei Shemra is mammon.
No, it's Knas. Motzei Shemra is a short Knas. That's a Gemara. It's Knas. The question is by like Sachsim Shabbat which is Mammon, I've got to pay you because your shah could have eaten 10 kilos of wheat. That's mammon. So why would Rav Meir say Leikim Mishalim? The Gemara says, even if you're Rav Meir, Leikim Mishalim. By mammon. Okay, we're very short of time, so skip to the first lot. He has another couple of kashas. Take a look inside, it's very interesting, it's easy to read. Veish Leima. Take a look in the first wide line of Taisus. The vade bein Rav Meir bein Rabbanon leike chilik bei mammon leknaslin and din chalukum din deleikum mishalim. Bein lefi Rabbanon, bein lefi Rav Meir. There's no difference by knas or mammon with leikum mishalim. The same thing is going to apply, and Taisus is going to make a whole dance and I have to explain to you why. Even with these psukim, this is knas, this is mammon, it doesn't matter. Take a look at Taisus. It says michli k'dei rishasi alfinullah. Where do you know the Leikim Mishalim from? K'dei Rishasai. K'dei Rishasai k'siv gabe Eidu Zayim. Where does it say the pasuk of K'dei Kedei Rishasai. It says it in the pasuk of Eidim Zaymim Kedei Rishasai. They're only given one punishment. So Hilchach, therefore, the Rav Meir the Sava Eidim Zaymim Knasahu. Rav Meir learns that Eidim Zaymim is Knas. V'shapi Alfinu Lahu Mimoitzi Shemra, and you can learn out Knas from Moitzi Shemra. Eidim Zaymim Shemra. The Loikin U'Mishalmim Im Kain Kedei Rishasai Nichtav Gabi Didei. So therefore, when it says Kedei Rishasai, Leikelukma b'Malkus Mammon. So therefore, Rav Meir uses this pasuk of Kedei Rishasai for something else, for Malkus Misa. That you don't give a guy Malkus Misa. Im Kain Vadei Amr Rav Meir b'Chol Dukta D'Loikum Mishalim. So therefore, since Rav Meir does not ever have a pasuk of Loikum Mishalim, why would you not think you could give Loikum Mishalim? The only reason why you think you shouldn't do both punishments is because of the pasuk of Kedei Rishasai. Only given one. Rav Meir uses that pasuk for Misa Mishalim. I want to tie this into the first thesis. Rav Meir uses this pasuk for Misa Mishalim. So there's never a problem with Rav Meir of Loikum Mishalim. Bein b'Knas, bein b'Mammon, it turns out. You only ever have a problem of Misa Mishalim, of Loikum Mishalim, if this pasuk, like Chachamim, is talking about Mammon. B'Fichach Rabbanon, this pasuk is going on Eidim Zaymim. And Eidim Zaymim is Mammon. Let's finish Taisus. Taisus is going to spell it out. You have no meat anywhere. Rabbanon hold that the punishment of Eidim Zaymim is Mammon. It's a financial reimbursement. Therefore, you can't learn out from Moitzi Shemra, which is Knas. The Loikum Mishalim. V'hilchach Dashinu Mikok Kedei Rishasai Lemutish Dei Rishas, but Malkus Mammon the Ein Loikum Mishalim. Therefore, I can use this pasuk the Ein Loikum Mishalim even by Mammon. So it turns out Lefir of Meir, you always Loikum Mishalim. Ben Mammon Ben Knas. Lefir Rabban, you never Loikum Mishalim. Ben Mammon Ben Knas. Okay, so let's finish the first three more lines of the Gemara. So the Gemara says, Rabbi Yehuda said Chomelei Parach Rabbanon. So what do Chacham do with this pasuk? Rabbanon Hailoi Sana Berechet Shakar Mai Dashi Bei. What do Rabbanon do with this pasuk of Lisana Berechet Shakar? Since you don't give the guy Malkus, the fear of Meir again, the pasuk of Lisana tells me Malkus, right? You have two psukim, Lisana, Kashazamam, two Malkus. What does the Rabbanon do with the pasuk of Lisana? Rabbanon Lisana Berechet Shakar Mai Dashi Bei. The Gemara says, Ahumi Bayelei Lashara Leidim Zaymim. It's needed as a warning for Eidim Zaymim. In other words, there's a klal. You never give a guy punishment if there's no warning. So the Torah can never just say, give this guy malchus, unless it said, don't do it. So you have two psukim, don't do it, and this is the yainish. So this is the warning for kasher, for malchus of Eidim Zaymim. Rav Meir asar Eidim Zaymim min alei. So where does Rav Meir know this asara? If Rav Meir, where's asara from? Amar Rav Yirmiyah nafkalei. There's a pasuk that says v'anisharim yishmu v'yiru klei sifun oid. Another pasuk. Okay, we'll wrap up over here. And the Rabbanon humaybayalei lachraza. We'll finish the whole Mishnah. The Rabbanon need that pasuk of v'lo yisifun oid lachraza. That means if you give a guy the punishment of kasha zamam, you hang the guy up, you kill him, you got to be machriz. We're killing this guy because he did kasha zamam. This didn't call you need to be machriz. Why are you killing him? That's what the din is from. And Rav Meir knows it from the first half of the pasuk. V'yishmu v'yiru. Therefore, you need achraza. Shkoyach Rabbi Sai.